Hello friends, how are you all? I'm Nupu. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel, Nature at the Very Core of Science. I was just reading a topic yesterday and I'm just fascinated to talk about this one. It's a very great piece of American history, the Harlem Renaissance. I hope you like it. I would welcome you to comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. African American workers and laborers were not the only black people to flock to urban areas of the North in the early 1900s. There were also musicians, writers, actors, dancers, and other talented blacks who moved to large cities such as New York, Chicago, and Detroit. They came not only from various parts of the United States, but from Cuba, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Haiti, and West Africa as well. They brought in with them an enthusiasm and energy that resulted in an outpouring of black artistic and literacy talent never before seen in America. This outgrowth of the Great Migration, with its achievements in the arts, is referred to as Harlem Renaissance. Harlem is a section of New York City that lies a mile or so north of Central Park, occupying roughly the area between 5th and 8th Avenue. It was originally the Dutch settlement of New Harlem, which was founded in 1658. In time, it became what is sometimes referred to as the black capital of the world, constituting one of the first large urban black communities in the United States. It was in fact the center of urban black life. A talented black person who wanted to write went there. So did any black who wanted a career in dance, theater, music, or any other artistic field. In literature, the Harlem Renaissance produced a host of talented black writers and poets, most of whom based their themes on the experiences of blacks in the rural South and in the cities of the North. One writer was James Weldon Johnson. In addition to writing, he had also been a lawyer, diplomat, teacher, songwriter, and a field secretary of the NACUP. His books included Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man, Black Manhattan, Along This Way, and Negro Americans. What Now? Among his books of poetry is God's Trombones, 7 Negro Sermons in Verse. He may be most remembered as the author of Life, Every Voice and Sing, which became the unofficial Negro anthem. Nella Larsen, Claude McKay, Counter Cullen, and John Trumer were other notable African-American writers. Larsen was an outstanding fiction writer who wrote the novel Quicksand and Passing. McKay was a Jamaican whose 1919 poem If We Must Die set the tone and subject matter for the literacy period. Cullen was a great poet who turned out such books of verse as Color, Copper Sun, and The Brown Girl. Toomer, whose full name was Nathan Eugene Pinchback Toomer, was a fair-skinned African-American with a straight nose and straight hair who, probably more than most Renaissance writers, struggled with an identity problem. When he passed for white, he was treated as an equal. When people were aware of his race, however, he was quickly relegated to second-class citizen status. Toomer is remembered for his novel Cain, which describes the life of poor blacks in Georgia. Langston Hughes was another writer of the Harlem Renaissance period. Although renowned primarily as a poet, he also produced, among other works, a novel, Not Without Laughter, a collection of short stories, The Ways of White Folks, and a play, Mulatto. His books of poetry include The Very Blues and The Dreamkeeper, the latter a book of poems for children. In his later years, Hughes was even referred to as the poet laureate of the Negro race. The Harlem Renaissance also produced a number of outstanding black musicians and composers. African Americans from the Mississippi Delta region brought with them blues music, which developed from African rhythms, gospel hymns, and slave songs, while jazz was introduced to the North from New Orleans. Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, and W.C. Handy stand out as three of the greatest African American musicians of the period. Edward Kennedy, Duke Ellington, became famous when his jazz band played before white audiences at the Cotton Club in Harlem in the late 1920s. The Cotton Club may have been in Harlem, but it was an all-white establishment. But Ellington was more than just a band leader. He was an accomplished pianist, composer, and arranger as well. He wrote a number of songs, such as Don't Get Around Much Anymore, that are still played and enjoyed today. Louis Armstrong gained fame with his trumpet. He was also a singer and band leader. Fellow musicians called him Satchel Mouth because of his wide grin. The name stuck, but was later shortened to Satchmo. Armstrong brought his famous trumpet north and achieved international fame. Some say his greatest talent lay in taking ordinary popular songs and turning them into moving jazz arrangements. Some of his later songs with which you may be familiar are Mac the Knife, Hello Dolly, and What a Wonderful World. W.C. William Christopher Handy is sometimes referred to as the father of the blues. Born to former slave parents in a log cabin in Florence, Alabama in 1873, he went on to become a great composer of the blues, Memphis Blues, Yellow Dog Blues, and Beale Street Blues. These are the number along his compositions, but he is most remembered for St. Louis Blues. The latter is still popular with many people today. Ellington, Armstrong, and Handy were but three African-American musicians and composers whose names are synonymous with the Harlem Renaissance. There were many others. Scott Joplin, who became famous for ragtime music, pianist Earl Hines, trombonist Jack Teagarden, pianist and composer Ferdinand Jelly Roll Morton, and clarinetist P.V. Russell are five more. We could list many others if space permitted. In addition to musicians and composers, the Harlem Renaissance also saw a number of famous black musical producers like U.B. Blake, Noble Cecil, F.E. Miller, and Aubrey Lyle are just four. Then there were such talented singers and stage performers as Billie Holiday, Josephine Baker, Bessie Smith, Ethel Waters, Bill Bojangles Robinson, Paul Robeson, Charles Gilpin, and Florence Mills. The names go on and on. The Harlem Renaissance era was not limited to the arts. African Americans also made contributions in science. George Washington Carver taught for many years at Booker T. Washington's Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. During much of this time, Southern farmers grew almost nothing except cotton. Carver convinced them to grow peanuts and sweet potatoes, proving that these could also make worthwhile cash crops. From his experiments with peanuts and sweet potatoes, Carver developed over 500 products. He turned peanuts into ink, coffee, soap, dyes, flour, and wood stains. From sweet potatoes, he created rubber, vinegar, molasses, and flour. He also made paint from clay and synthetic marble from wood shavings. Carver was a gracious man, asking no profit for his wondrous discoveries. The Harlem Renaissance, as first called the New Negro Movement and the Negro Awakening, encouraged African Americans to celebrate and be proud of their rich heritage. It transformed African American identity and culture and changed American culture as well. White Americans, for the first time, began to heed, embrace their music and style.